Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's session of Healing from the Inside Out. And I have a recurring guest with me, Nicky Cooper, because I love her and she's a nurse like me. So I really enjoy talking to her because she's so insightful. So today we're just going to shoot the crap and we're going to talk about what it's like to really be in the online space and some of the challenges people might encounter coming into the online space, right? So please welcome Nicky Cooper. Hello.
Kia ora from New Zealand. It's a beautiful day. It's summer, hot summer here.
Oh no. I'm a winter baby, so I like I like the cold right now. So I was telling you before we went live that my girlfriend and myself are actually doing a podcast, The Real Life of the Entrepreneurs, because you're a professional, you've been in healthcare, you've been a nurse a really long time, you have your master's in nursing, you're a big advocate for public health, you're doing amazing things in public health. Now you're teaching other nurses, which is no small task. So, and then when we come online and we try to help people, because especially as nurses, we're very compassionate and we see a need and we want to fill it, whether it's in the online space or it's in our day to day, how we can, help the elders in the community. We're always involved in something outside of our life. We see a problem and we want to fix it. So when we come online, I think we expect, because we have so many hats in healthcare.
Mm.
We are we are the social worker, we're the psychiatrists a lot of times, we stand in for the doctors. So I think when we come online, we're like, okay, this is great, but how do I tell people I want to help them, and where do I find them, and how do I tell them what I help them with, and and how do I say that in a way where they really understand? Because as nurses, we just tell them, okay, you want to get rid of the diabetes, this is your diet, this is what you do, how far are you from that grocery store. We take into account all those scenarios. Do they have access to food? Who do I need to direct them to? All those things go through our mind to get a clear picture. But on social media, they don't want to know any of that. They just want to know, how can you get me from A to B quickly and say it like you know what I'm feeling, right? So what was your experience trying to navigate that situation when you came out? I love what you're doing online, by the way. I read your post. I follow you. I read your posts every day. I think it's beautiful. I feel my heart in everything you're saying. I'm saying, wow, we've never worked together as nurses, but I know that we're very similar. You're like my sister from another mother. I'm like, oh man, I could feel who you are in everything that you write. So what is that like for you out there?
It's a kind of a weird thing because when I was the parenting guru in the rural area that I first started out in well, 15 years ago, I was running a Facebook group. It was a small exclusive group, and I felt reasonably confident in that as sort of camp mother. And then bridging into a more of a business scenario, it's definitely opened my eyes to perhaps being very naive about what it was really like out there. I certainly had no idea about algorithms and the the way that the online presence and the way that you're, uh, you know, what the latest thing is that you have to be saying to engage people, etc., etc. And I felt quite I don't know if disillusioned is the right word, but it's an extraordinary experience once you start to learn how it all works. I'm on about 5 platforms, and I have an Instagram account which links into a Facebook account. And when I first set up, I did what I think a lot of coaches do, which is you join a lot of online coaching forums and you put your hat in the ring for everything. And the moment I did that, I got bombarded with direct messages from everyone on the planet, offering the latest thing. I can help you to do this. I can, I can get you from A to B. I can propel you and scale your business. And it was extraordinarily overwhelming, but at the same time, very invasive. Um, and very little of it was helpful. So there were lots of courses and workshops, and you sign up for this, and then there's this little free thing, and there was always a hook to now you need to do this, etc., etc. And so that was exhausting actually, because I would have sometimes up to 30 messages every morning when I turned my phone and my device on, to suddenly realize you've got all of this stuff, um, and you're being bombarded. So that was quite overwhelming to start with. And then sort of after a period of time, and I'm pretty sassy when I can figure out who's authentic and who isn't. And I've had a little bit of an ick about sales pitches for a long time, because they don't feel genuinely heartfelt. They don't feel like people are connecting with you. So I was able to sort of filter through that. I've had quite a lot of abuse from people that have tried to hook me into something that they're offering, and I very politely said no thank you. And then I've had people say, well, I can't tell who you are online, I don't know what your mission statement is, there's nothing in what you're saying that sort of, yeah, it's not working, and quite critical. So being a heart-centered person, you sort of step away and you're like, oh my God, this is just terrible.
They're bashing you. I had
Yeah.
I had someone, people I don't know, a lot of people respond to my posts. And for the most part, I'm very upbeat and I'm very friendly and I'm just trying to inspire people to have a good day. And I had someone write something derogatory about dreams. Like she was kind of saying my message was in lack, right?
Mm,
So I just didn't like the way her message came across. I got a bad feel, and I'm pretty good judge of vibe, you know. So I said, why does this make me feel this way? Is it
mm,
me? You know? Um, so I looked at what she did, and everything she was writing about was because that's what she's teaching, and she's trying to get people into her group. So I politely said, good morning. Could you not use my personal post as your billboard? Right.
mm,
So she got insulted by that and told me that she doesn't see this as competition. It only, I don't operate from lack. And I didn't feel like she was competition, but what she was saying was derogatory about about my post, right? Like dreamers or whatever it was about. But if you have nothing nice to say, then don't say anything at all. No one's asking you to be on my
comment.
profile.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I'm saying good morning, and you're like dream, So I just deleted her because you're gonna always, this world is not changing. You're always gonna have the good. You're always gonna have the bad. We meet that in our jobs every day,
Mm,
in our personal lives, in our professional lives. So you really, really, really have to have a big filter and strong resounds, because if we take any of that to heart, we'll probably quit. We'll say, well, this is
mm,
just too hard, because they just want to grow their business and they don't care how they do it. And there are people out there that are very heart centered, like you and myself. Like every post that you put out there, it has value. There's a direct message in there, and I can see what you're saying. Some people are just putting content up just to put it up because they want to sell a product or a service. I don't care if someone works with me or not. That's not going to stop me from providing them value, right? Because how do they know if I'm a good fit if they don't know the kind of value that I provide, right? Make sense?
yeah, absolutely.
So I'm getting spammed left and right. And oh my God, you don't know. I have people attacking my pages, telling me they're from Facebook and I'm going to be deleted. And I just turn them off. I just turn them off. So a lot of people are doing that now too, because if they see a lot of activity on your page, they want your page to use it for their business, for
Mm.
their, their mining or whatever they're doing. I had one of my accounts on Instagram taken. I had 15,000 people there, and then I had none. So
Wow.
yeah, someone asked me to support them. They were doing, some model or something. Will you support me? And I said, sure. She said, can you just fill this out? And what she sent me was my own link. And when I clicked on it, my page just went down. It was bye-bye. It was connected to my Facebook. It brought everything down. So I've had some hard times out here, but you have to persevere. I think that if you have a really strong message that you really, I think if I could tell anybody anything from what I've learned out here is not to listen to what everybody else is saying, because most of those people out there that are giving advice are still trying to figure it out themselves.
Mm.
They really don't know. Otherwise, they wouldn't be spamming everybody all day, right? They'd have a system in place that was getting them the people they needed, and they wouldn't be having that. But like yourself, I'm waking up to a very, very warm messenger that's been very, very hot all night. And I'm like, oh no. So I don't even pay attention to it anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a reasonably thick skin, but I've definitely, it's a different world. I mean, I've been online probably since Facebook started, and you get you get to understand the psyche behind a lot of what people are saying and thinking and feeling and how they're responding and stuff. But yeah, it was a little surprising. I I found that there's a lot of FOMO on Instagram. I don't mean to diss anyone that's on Instagram. There seems to be a lot of influencer type, um I'm not sure if it's mentality or it's just a theme that's on there. I feel a little saddened when I see people that are extremely competent and they're in a field of excellence really in their craft of whatever that's counseling, health, wellness, coaching, or psychotherapy, or anything like that. And it feels like it's taken to a degree of being an influencer, and that seems to be the theme of a lot of what I see, and that's not me at all. I've had a lot of people say things like, you don't really have a niche. Your message isn't very clear. You're not putting any call to action on your posts and the content that you're putting out, etc. Um, a- and and I took a long time to really figure all of that out. And the issue is that I've been a generalist nurse for such a long time. It's very hard to have a niche when you have a really broad one. It's really hard to.
You don't have to tell me. Everybody keeps telling me that I should scale down, and I feel like,
Why?
why should I
I
dumb
can work with
myself
everybody,
down? but that's
cradle to
kind of it.
grave.
Well, they
It's
feel like this. If you're talking about so many things, people won't understand you. But you and I really are not. We're talking about one thing, the human body, the human experience.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what age it is.
Yeah, yeah. So we get that, we get that there's really no difference between pediatrics and geriatrics. They're just at different parallels of the spectrum. We get that, but they don't understand that. And I think it's harder for us because we do have to pick something.
Mm,
Otherwise, nobody will know exactly what we do, but most of the times that people come to us out here, they think it's for weight loss, and that's not their problem anyway. Like, I do digestive issues and thyroid, right? So in weight loss, but they think they have a weight loss problem, and it's really not a weight loss problem. It's just the way they think about food and their exterior world, right? So I'm not going to tell them that. I'm going to help them learn a new way to develop better habits around the way they think about food, right? Um, so a lot of times, even when we're spot on and our message is very clear, if that's not their particular problem that day, they're not going to buy, they're not going to join you, they're not. So so dialing in your message is really about helping them see that you understand them. And I think you do that pretty eloquently.
Mm,
You're talking about very specific problems that children deal with, and as a family and as a community, how we can make that better. So I see that. And I think that when someone looks at anybody's message, they're going to see what they want to see.
mm, absolutely. Yeah.
So,
I've quite regularly had messages um pop up that have said, how did you get into my head this morning? Because what you wrote was exactly what I've been thinking over the last X, Y, and Z, and that's what I needed to hear today and stuff. So that makes me feel very encouraged as well. I find myself getting inspired or having epiphanies each day because I know that I'm a natural born writer. I love to create words and words that have meaning and that they can lift people and they can be inspiring. I don't mean like toxic positivity or anything like that, but I have a little idea and then it sort of evolves over my time as I'm sleeping, etc. And in the morning I write something and it resonates with myself and it resonates with something that somebody said, something I may have heard, something I may have watched, a song that I've heard even, or a moment that I've had out in the garden. And it just sort of evolves into that. And I think, well, I needed to think that thought and have that little dialogue because a lot of what it is you're sort of having that conversation with yourself as well, so it's resonating with you. And I think, well, if that's something that I needed today, then perhaps somebody else did, and so that's why I post it, because I think it's just, it's just one of those things. I can't be the only one that's having these thoughts or struggles or needs to hear these sort of words of inspiration today. And I don't put a call to action on those because there's a huge part of me, and I don't mean this in an altruistic way, but there's a huge part of me that really wants to just give value to people. And I don't see a dollar sign on that. I know we come from very different countries and very different health services. And I've always worked for free healthcare in England and here in New Zealand. And so there's that big part of you that wants to continue that. So I don't put a call to action. If people wanted to say, oh, maybe this is somebody that I can work with, I'd like to know more or have a look at what they're doing, then all the links are up or on your profiles, so they can find you if they really want to. So yeah, they were the kind of things that people had said, and I've really thought about that, and I'm not going to change that because I sometimes feel a little despondent when I watch something and it really clicks with me, and then there's this sales pitch at the end of it. And that's the bit that I struggle with a little bit. It doesn't feel as holistic or as authentic when it has that. And I know that makes me the
okay,
the anti-business person.
let me change your mind about that a little bit, right?
I just
You
grab my
know that
water.
people are creatures of habits, and you know that as a nurse, when you want somebody to do something, you have to walk them through those steps, right? So your call to be action could be, if you like this message, share it with someone who needs to hear it. That can be a
Yes.
call to action.
Yeah.
But people need that permission. You can share it. People
Yeah.
need direct steps. So I never put call to actions either, you know, and people like, well, and then I hired someone for marketing, and on every post of mine, she was writing book a call, book a call. And I said, what is all this book a call? When I've been out here 3 years, I never told somebody to book a call. And she was like, maybe that's why your business. I said, my business is fine, thank you. But I don't like that that salesy way either.
No.
I will tell people my consults are free. So I'm not trying to get anybody to sell everything. Everybody that joins my group is entitled to a free consult because it allows me to get to know them, why they're here, and how I can provide service, how I can show up. Because if you are struggling with diabetes or something, then that's a talk that I'll discuss next time I go live, right? Because now I know somebody has a need, right? So I
Mm.
use it to gauge that, right? So, but if you are working with people and you are providing a service, because you are a life coach and you're a damn good one, you've been doing it for all these years, you've been a nurse. That's what we do. We're life coaches, right? So there should be some reciprocity
Mm.
involved. And I wasn't big on asking for money in the beginning either. And I think that a lot of healthcare people get lost in this concept when they come online. And I think it's because we don't believe that somebody should have to pay for healthcare. We do, even in countries where they rob you blind for it. We think that people are entitled to that. That's a basic human right. So we feel uneasy putting a price on a service. But people aren't paying for the service. They're paying because you have knowledge in that area and can get them a better result quicker than them staying online with people that really don't know how to give them help, right? Because I mean, if you look at all the things that are online about health, none of it's really health related. I say to myself, oh my God, I'm like, oh my God, this is what they're passing off as health. So,
The healthpreneurs.
yeah, and none of them have a degree in what they're teaching. None of them are, and they're not regulated. So here's some really good news. They are going to start regulating coaching. That's coming up. So people are going to have to prove that they have competency in what they're
Mm.
actually out here selling. Because there are a lot of people getting sick based on this bad advice. So
Mm.
I think, I don't know if it's because the marketing wants to be able to control thing or get a piece of what you're selling, or I don't know why they're doing it, but they're doing it. And I, for one, am happy because I think
Mm.
that there's a lot of people out there selling really bad advice. But people aren't paying for your service as much as they're paying for your knowledge. So you're not selling healthcare. You're selling your knowledge. You
Mm.
worked really hard for it. You're entitled to get paid for a service well done. Because certainly someone who came to you that needed help with diabetes, even if that wasn't your niche online, you can certainly help them a lot quicker than somebody who just managed their own diabetes and now thinks they're a health guru, right?
Mm.
I couldn't talk for a minute there. So couldn't even say that guru. So I mean, people are paying for the speed. So when we look at like the diet industry market today, it's really gotten so out of hand and people are paying for speed. People want a result today. So they'll take a pill, they'll drink shakes all day, they'll starve themselves to death, and they're not looking at the long-term complications of what that's doing to their system. They're only thinking about the now because we're in that immediate gratification world. So the best thing we could do is really educate them on how that's hurting them. Okay, you'll be skinny here, but you'll be dead here. You know what I mean? And
And as
because
soon
it
as you
is,
stop being skinny, as soon as you stop and you stop being skinny, you go straight back up and some. Yeah.
yeah, but it's also setting a bad precedence. I mean, we have diets out there like keto diet that is promoting high fat food. So everybody was on this keto phase, and then a year later, Eyewitness News says, guess what? It leads to heart disease and cholesterol problems. well, where did you think all that fat was going to go that you're eating? So, I mean, for us, that makes a lot of sense, but some people are only thinking about short-term goals. I want this and I want this now. So, as people that are really in the health space, we need to let them know that there are short-term goals and long-term goals, and short-term adverse effects and long-term adverse effects. If you do A, you could get B, you know,
Yeah.
and there's an easier way to get from A to B. Let me show you. These are my services. And that's where we need to come from, because I know that we sometimes healthcare professionals feel weird asking for that cell, but we need to get really good at it, because either we help them out there or they're going to be helped by somebody else and they're not going to get that best advice. So if you have confidence in your capabilities, then stand up as the health professional you are and give them good help.
Mm.
Because,
I yeah, I think you're right. Um, you're always right.
no, I'm not.
but
No, I'm
but
not. It
there's
took me a
symptom
long time to get
control.
it. It took me a long time to get there, because I kept giving. I mean, if anybody's been following my stories, if they really did what I'm saying in these cute little reels and listen to, how you're not getting fiber and why you're drinking water, and why these crazy sugars, like they have all these sugar substitutes, are actually worse for gut health and worse for this. If they were
Mm.
actually paying attention to what I was saying, they'd already be in that body that they love. So I'm spending all this time to direct that message towards health. But am I helping them if I'm not out there showing up, telling them, okay, this is what you have. I can help you do A, B, C, and D in this time. This is what I charge. Let's get on a call. Because at some point I need to do that. Otherwise, we don't
Mm.
have a business. We just have a hobby.
Yes.
And which is
Expensive hobby.
a very expensive hobby and a very time, when as entrepreneurs, when we show up, we want more time, more money, and more freedom. And when you come online, you have none of those. So my post this morning was about building a business and how people, tell you all these things that they're doing, and those are just not real highlights of the truth, that most of starting a business is not front end loaded, that those results show up very much further down the line, but you got to keep at it if it's something you want to do. So I'm going to be in healthcare no matter who pays me, whether, the city pays me or the hospital pays me, you know, I'm going to be in healthcare. So I may as well just do it for myself, right?
Yeah, totally. So many, I find that so many, well, we're kind of living in a world, or I think we're living in a world now that everyone's looking for that instant fix, like you said, but they're also looking for symptom control. They're not really looking at why they've got those symptoms in the first place. And I think that's a that's kind of a lot of what's going online. I think is people are looking for, well, what's going to work for me that I don't I have to do the least amount of work towards. I can just do this, take this pill or say this thing, for a few times, and then I can go back to the way that my life is. They don't really want to make the change that is lasting. And I think that's the difference with the people that are not qualified, and I don't mean that in an unkind way, but are not qualified to see the whole picture, which I think that certainly health professionals are, because we do see that whole person and we know that there's a root cause, there's a reason why we've taken lifestyle choices that we have that have caused X, Y, and Z, and ultimately we've got this cascade of issues now. But now we've still got that sort of emotional void, if you like, that's driving those behaviors, but now we're looking for those fixes online, and so they're looking to do it quickly, they're looking to do it as cheap as possible in a lot of cases, which is understandable. Today's climate is difficult financially, but it doesn't have stickability, because they're still going to, if they don't go to what is actually driving those beliefs or those actions or inactions that they're doing that are causing these symptoms, then they're never gonna manage it. They're never gonna master it long term. They're only ever going to master it for a short term. And willpower is like a muscle, isn't it? So it it needs rest as well, and it'll run out of steam, and then old patterns will surface. So that's why a lot of people, I had a coaching client who, one of the first things she said to me is, I've seen a few coaches and it hasn't worked, and they weren't very good, and she had quite a negative way of looking at that. And I thought, what's the real issue here? What is it that perhaps, I don't know who they were or what their qualifications or credentials were, but what was it about what they were saying that wasn't landing for you, or you were able to make that connection that there's something I need to meet this somewhere along the line now. Um, so it's an interesting world. Um, it's a new way in some respects. It's not a new way in the fact that I've always been helping people like this for the whole of my career. The new way is trying to project that business model, I guess, on in an online way. I've always had people just presented to me. So yeah, it's a big shift for me, and I'm still working on that myself, trying to get over my discomfort. And that's going to be work in progress probably to the day I
Well,
retire.
when we get off this, I'm going to send you something that's going to change exactly how
Change
you
my
were it's going to change the way you want to think too. But I think a lot of the negativity also comes from what we see other people doing. So
Mm,
like the people that are spamming, because it makes us feel like, oh my God, do I sound like that? I don't want to be that person. But I was in my group and I was giving them all these freebies, nothing but value for 3 years. And what they really wanted to hear was how I got from point A
mm.
to point B. Well, she lost 126 pounds in a year, and she's
Yeah.
still
Or
thin.
I can make you this.
How did she do it? So that's what they really wanted to know. They didn't, but all those things I was giving them were all things that I needed for that journey. So, and maybe if I would have said that, they would have said, okay, let me go over here and look at what she did. So I've been talking a lot about the mind in my groups right now, because your body physically doesn't do anything that your mind doesn't tell it to do. So if you get into that skinny body, but you bring your fat body mentality with you, then you really haven't changed anything. So that process, that journey along the way, that time that you need instead of the quick fix, is really having them connect so that they're working together again. So you do need to do that inner work, because
Mm,
everything that we're seeing on our outside is direct reflection of how we feel, or we see the world in reflection to us. How we perceive, they see us. So and I had no idea that I was going to be going on that journey, because I wasn't ready when I listen, I wasn't not ready when I started that journey to do that inner work. But I said, either I start this now or I stay where I am. So
mm.
a lot of people aren't ready for that, and they'll keep going for those quick fixes. So a lot of what we do has to be meeting them where they're at,
Yeah,
and
totally.
moving them. I find that when you tell people what they need, they're not as accepting as when you move them to see what it is they need. And as nurses, we're so used to telling them, but when you know we repeat what they just said. um
There's
I
a
was
there's a
on
big difference though, isn't there, between what you need and what you want? Because
Yes,
what you want is not necessarily what you actually need.
I know,
So,
but yeah, I was on a call with a client the other day, and I asked her if she had done certain things, and she said no. And I said, well, why not? Isn't that why we're here? Why not? And she said, well, I don't know how to put myself first. I said, I said, now
Now we get,
that's what we need to be working on, because all this stuff doesn't matter if we don't do that. I
yeah,
said, so now you're ready,
yeah.
you know? And I knew that was like a monumental breakthrough for her, but she didn't realize
Mm,
that just her saying, I don't know how to do this, was saying,
mm.
okay, I'm ready for that help, So every people come to where they need to be at a certain place. And some people, just like you said, don't want that help. They're not ready to put in that work.
No, gosh, no. And then they have um I had somebody have quite a negative reaction to the breakthrough that they had in that they were almost upset that they had an emotional reaction to what what they had, well, their breakthrough really. And to me, it's a gift. It is a gift. You're never going to go as deep as you don't want to. You're never going to allow yourself to be pushed. You couldn't possibly be manipulated into going into something that you're not ready to do. Um, and sometimes it's uncomfortable and sometimes it's painful to go to that level of stuff that you need to do, but the way forward is just at the other side of that. The way forward, or the little magic flick of the switch, is on the other side of that, because then there is a decision or a choice that you've made that, no, actually this is not who I want to be. This is not where I want to be. This is got to change. And often they have to go through that. Certainly this person, and I felt terrible. I thought, gosh, have I really, hurt somebody here or upset them by taking them to a vulnerability that perhaps they weren't ready for. But when I really stepped back and looked at it, I thought, gosh, no, actually that was exactly what that person needed. They needed to go to realize how deeply impacted they were from this situation, or how deeply impacted it was eking out into all areas of their life. So they did need to go and have a deep dark look, and they were very safe to do that. But her discomfort was what she was finding challenging, which anybody would, of course. And of course, the way that we have adapted to whatever it is that's got us to this situation in our life, it didn't happen overnight. None of it happened overnight. It's happened over a long period of time where we've just been constantly living this script, or constantly living this belief that's been running us. So the way to sort it out, or the way to sort of get back from that, is not going to happen overnight. How could it? You don't learn a new language overnight.
People just don't get that though. So I had a client that, even though she thought it had nothing to do with her eating, I asked her to talk about her family. I said, I need to know about your past. I said, because in there is your future. So
Yeah.
let's talk. So, she had a parent that had committed suicide. And, I wanted to know, how did that make you feel as a small child, and all those emotions came up,
Mm, mm,
how you feel left and isolated, unimportant, in so many other ways. And even though this is so many years later and you think you dealt with it, you haven't. And I said,
yeah.
because he took that opportunity for you to tell him how you felt away. I said, so I want to give it back to you. I want you to write him a letter
Mm,
and
beautiful.
tell him how that made you feel. I said, go through everything. What that was like for you to find him, what it was like for you not for him to be at your wedding. And I said, and let him know. I said, and it's okay to tell him exactly how you feel, you know?
Absolutely.
And I said, and then you can burn it or whatever. I said, but you need to get that out. I said, because you're carrying that around with you.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, how much is our nervous system and our immune system in bed together, you know?
I know. So I said, you got, and, so, but through the course of that conversation and talking to her family, I said, okay, so this is your homework. You're writing a letter to A, B, C, and D. And I need you to talk about those things. You don't have to do them with me. You don't have to share them with me. but you need to say them out loud to yourself,
You
put
need to
them
get it out
down.
of here, don't you?
Yeah, just put them down somewhere. I said, because these are all feeding into what you think you're stuffing down with your food is really your emotions. It's still hurting you. So let's let some of it out. And she's having great results now, and so we never know what someone's block is. So you slapping up a program, you know, to lose weight quickly, if they're having all these emotional, or they've had past traumas, or
Mm.
they're dealing with, maybe they're the caregiver of six people, all their Grammys and grannies are living with them, and we don't know what anybody's life is outside of that room. So we have to make it our business to find out, otherwise we're not doing our job effectively, right?
Absolutely. And isn't it wonderful? This is the one thing I do love about coaching. And it was probably the one thing I used to get not criticized for, but I would spend so much time with any client or patient that I would look after, that I would really want to know what was driving that thought, what was underneath that, what was the cause of that, what meeting them where they're at. And generally in your healthcare setting, in your professional healthcare setting, you don't have the time to give people that they need to really address those things. So the coaching has allowed me to go all in if that's what people want to do, because I'm not really interested in doing a half job, to be fair, Andrea. I I'm an
I
all-in
know.
girl.
I know.
I'm it's not that it bores me, because it doesn't bore me. I just think, what is the point? Um, because it's just wasting time, because you're going to have to do it eventually. Now, how many times have we met people really in acutely unwell situations or nearing the end of their life, and then looking back and going, damn it, I should have done this ages ago. Where are all those opportunities? So they're they're my people. They're the ones that I really do want to help, is the ones that want to go all in. And I know that I'm good at doing it. I know that I'm good at holding people safely and helping them to get through that. And whatever comes up, we can manage as it comes up. But it allows you the flexibility and time to do what needs to be done. Whereas in our normal healthcare settings, we don't have the capacity or the time to do that, which is it's the way it is. So that's one thing I do love.
I love
It's
that. I love that about you too, because I just get that sense about you the first time we met. So, you know, um, some people have no problem doing things half-ass, and that reflects. My mother always used to tell me, if you do it half-ass, you're just gonna have to go back and do it again. So do it right the first time, and you wouldn't be sitting here doing it again. That she drilled that in my head. And anything worth doing is worth doing well you know
Oh God, yeah.
I create a lot of frameworks, and because of you do a lot of emotional healing. I see that in your posts. So that might do very well for you, creating frameworks of things people can get to, because I think as health professionals, we kind of see things as A, B, C, and D, because we go through the systems. Like when we first meet someone, we've already assessed their whole system, and we're looking straight at them, right? So we know, right? So frameworks allow you to get to things in a very easy, gentle way. Like doing one thing at a time with them. Like, how important is this to you? And this week, find three nice things to say about yourself and
It's like a
list them.
triage.
Yeah. So it's emotional, but it's like an emotional triage. But you get them. Your job this week is to find three things that you can say to yourself when you feel like giving up, right? Or when you feel like this isn't working. So Those are the kind of things that I put in the front of like programs that I sell, because not everybody wants to work the one-on-one. Certainly it's more expensive. You're trading time for money, right? So I sell the courses. If they want the knowledge, you want to have at it, right? Um, let me know if you need a hand. I'll be happy to help you. So, I think you do very well at that, setting them up, because you have a
Mm,
very, as a nurse, you have that critical thinking, and you can see the steps that they're going through, like, and sometimes people need that navigational tool. They want to see it in front of him and going through the work. Like some people learn well by reading, other people are auditory, and some people actually have to do it to
mm,
get it. You know what I
mm.
mean? Like once I do something, I own it. It's mine, you know? So you have all those different types of learners, and the framework kind of gives them all three, because it's visual, they can see it, they can read it out loud, or I do audio tapes for people. I
Oh,
send
that's a
them
good
little
idea. Yeah.
affirmations about their journeys. you know you can get very creative with this, and you're
Mm.
very creative. So I think that everybody's journey out here is different, and I think that what makes it so special is that when you align with who you are at your core and just speak from that, your perfect people are going to find you, because they're going to hear that love, they're going to hear that heart, and they're going to be drawn to that part of you, and they're going to relate. And like you said, we're not the only ones thinking what we're thinking.
No,
So
God, no.
so they will absolutely tune into them, because when you listen to all those other people and what everybody else is saying, you're not showing up as yourself. If you're trying to worry about being on Instagram and being over here and doing this and saying the right thing and sticking a call to action, you know,
And
you're not.
observing what your followers are and how many you've got and all of that stuff. That's just, yeah, it's not real. It's
You
not real
can,
world.
yeah, and followers really don't mean anything. I'm not looking for followers, I'm looking for real connections. So
Yeah.
I have a lot of people sitting, waiting for me to accept their friendships, and they'll sit, you know. I'm very selective about the people I let into
Mm.
my world. I look at them, I say, oh, we help coaches, or and you're not coming. Sorry. I'm trying to get you out of my inbox,
I
so
had an interesting conversation with a on a coaching forum. I think I'm only in two still, and they were kind of more that um, higher end or experienced coaches, and so I stayed in them because there's stuff that does come out that gives value. And someone asked a question: "What's the first thing you ask a new client?" And I was sitting having a coffee or a cup of tea, and chewing the fat with my phone, and I thought, I know how to answer this. And so I put, how are you feeling? And this guy said to me, why is that relevant?
oh my God.
And I thought he must be joking. So we had this sort of online, very professional conversation where I said that this is the first thing I need to know is how you're feeling. That is the way in to helping someone to tap into what's really going on with them. Whereas he had a very different model of thinking, and it was very executive. It was a very, very strategic and linear, and whereas mine was very much that, I know that our emotional mind, our emotional um, body is what's driving the show. So that's to me is the first thing I want to know is how are you feeling? How are you feeling about having this conversation today? How are you feeling about what's brought you to here and the fact that you're now in this situation where you're asking for help? How do you feel about that? Because that's very indicative of what's going on, what's underneath. We're starting to peel back some of the layers and delve a little bit deeper. But he couldn't get it at all. And I thought, I thought, is it me? is it me that's not right here? Because
It's
I just couldn't, I couldn't get my head around it. I genuinely thought he was joking with me to start with, and then I realized no, he was really serious, and I didn't change his mind. I don't think I could, but he's got a very fixed mindset on that. But I certainly, and it was, it wasn't a keyboard warrior or conversation or anything like that, but it was just extraordinary to see it from this. He was saying people need action, they want results, they want blah blah blah, and I know that that's only going to be short term if you don't look at the stuff that's who you really are, the stuff that you're a mind before anything else. So yeah, I had a lot of fun playing with that one, but it's such a different world. We're all such different people, and not everybody will want to work with someone who's heart-centered or want to work with someone who's um into the sort of the psyche behind who you are. um Generally, in my experience, though, if you really want to do the work, that's what you have to do, I think.
some people are afraid, they feel like they're being
Yeah,
exposed. So, I mean, the only one when you're exposing yourself is to you, and that comes from fear because they don't feel love and belonging and like they're going to be accepted. So, if you're living in fear, you're living in ego. And I don't think ego
totally.
has any place in reality. I really don't.
And you're
I
just
think
stuck in
that's,
that karmic wheel, aren't you, really? It's just that sort of perpetual wheel of life that you're in, unfortunately. Um and maybe that's as much as you're going to do this lifetime, or as much as you're going to do in at this present moment. But they're not the people that I desperately would like to work with. I think the people that are ready to do what needs to be done as long as they need, they're the ones that I really, really,
I
they're the
won't
ones I
work
get
with
excited
anybody
about.
that's not ready. So, I was listening, and then we're going to wrap it up because you've heard a lot about how we feel about being entrepreneurs. But I think this is important though, because everybody out there thinks if they're not doing great, it's on them, and it's not. You will hit your time when you hit your time, and I want that message to be out there. You're not failing just because you're not at the same place somebody else is. It's your journey and your story. So, and people need to know that. But you were talking about asking how you're feeling, and I think that's like the easiest thing in the world. But there was a coach that I know and I love, Eben Began, and he teaches other coaches how to coach. And one of the first things he does with all of his students is make you shrug off your day, to bring it into how you feel, let go of what's not out of your control, let it all go, and see the person that you're becoming. That's the first 10 minutes of every one of his sessions with his students, because he wants to bring them into the right now and let go of some of that stuff. and
Mm.
and then he says, how you doing? So that that's his thing. But I think that I think there's different kinds of people out there. I think there's different kinds of entrepreneurs out there. I personally think that you have a lot to offer this world and this planet. And I'm excited to see what you create. I wouldn't worry so much about what other people are doing. There's a lot of information on YouTube. I know a lot of people spend a lot of times in groups trying to get they're told to steal clients from other people's groups. I don't belong. I probably belong to hundreds of them. I'm not in any of them. I don't have time for that. I
Yeah.
don't want to be a part of that. But if I want to learn how to do something to build my business, then I'm on YouTube. I listen to people that I respect, and I respect what they're doing in their business. And then I say, let me see if this will work for me.
At the
And
end of the day, though, Andra, that there is so much information out there. It's not lack of information that's the problem with anyone. It's not lack of knowledge or information. It's really the because it's all out there. You can just Google in why do I have this? You'd get 1,000 answers for things. It's really about why are they not, and 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 if they want to explore why they're not, it's about having a really deep connection and feeling safe with somebody to be able to explore that. Because most people find that they struggle to do that on their own because too much of that resistance and or that internal drive that goes, oh no, I can't, oh no, yeah, can't go there.
Yeah.
So it's really having someone that's like your buddy to help you go through that, because it's not through lack of information, because there's so much information out there. We're flooded, we're drowning in information. It's about helping someone to disseminate how that sits with you, what it is that you need, and stuff. And I think that really just comes from that rapport and actually that connection, that deep connection that you can have, just feeling that you can safely do this with somebody that's going to help you do it, and I think that's the bit that's, I'm not going to say missing, because I don't think it is missing. I think it's hard to see that online, and I think that's the point. Is there's so much other stuff going on that is you can do. It's like flashy, loud neon adverts, really, but it's that rapport and that connection with somebody to do what you need to do.
But I think it's all that flashy stuff that keeps people from reaching out too, because they don't know who to trust, because there's such a
No.
sea of people out there. So we're gonna wrap this up. So I hope you enjoy this. I love Nicky Cooper, and as two professionals that came online, I gotta tell you, it wasn't easy to navigate, because you can be a professional in anything in life and not have a clue how to market yourself, and you'll still be stuck. So, invest in some marketing if you don't know how to do it. The good news is, whatever you don't know about marketing yourself, you can learn. There's plenty of people out there that are willing to teach you, but just navigate through them cautiously and make sure you're getting good quality help, right? So you wouldn't trust your car to an air conditioning mechanic, right? So be very clear about what you're looking for and get that help, because it's out there. But don't give up. Dreams are made to be filled, right? So this has been Nicky Cooper and Anja Annette. And thank you so much for tuning in to this session of Healing from the Inside Out. Have a good night.